the collective responsibility of the horrible events that are now unfolding in the Gaza Strip when hundreds of thousands of innocent people are being exterminated. People who have nowhere to go, nowhere to hide from the bombardments, from the shelling, cannot be justified. When you look at the children covered in blood, at the dead children, deceased children, when you look at how the elderly, women are suffering, how medical professionals are dying, of course, it makes you clench your fist and it makes you cry. I cannot put it in any other way.
Israel's not seen as the underdog anymore. Israel is seen as an extension of the West. And Vladimir Putin has now come out in a speech we're going to play here for you in a moment and said just that. So this is about to turn into a regional war. We already have a big war in Ukraine. China's going to move into Taiwan. They're openly saying they're getting ready to. And all hell's going to break loose. You add to that the head of J.P. Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, saying, looks like we're going to have a depression, maybe worse than the Great Depression. Can you imagine what's going to happen to this country and the world in a global depression? Not been this excited ever. Oh, yeah, Mug Club, baby. Wow.
The replatforming begins now. Join Mug Club and get 1 month free with promo code ALEX at jonescrowder.com.
All right, to say it's a big deal that Turkey's Erdogan, who's been somewhat friendly to Israel overall, compared to other Arab countries, Muslim countries, coming out and saying we'll invade Israel over the weekend, as he spoke to millions of people at an outdoor rally, to say that's a bad thing and dangerous is an understatement. But Vladimir Putin, in a series of interviews and statements, has basically come out against Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. So as I've been saying here since October 7th, Israel's not seen as the underdog anymore. Israel is seen as an extension of the West. And Vladimir Putin has now come out in a speech we're going to play here for you in a moment and said just that. So this is about to turn into a regional war. We already have a big war in Ukraine. China's going to move into Taiwan. They're openly saying they're getting ready to. And all hell's going to break loose. You add to that the head of J.P. Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, saying, looks like we're going to have a depression, maybe worse than the Great Depression. Can you imagine what's going to happen to this country and the world in a global depression? 87% of people at the start of the Great Depression lived in the countryside, and about half of them were self-sufficient. So 40-something% had a farm, had chickens, had cows, had goats, had sheep, and could feed themselves. And by the end of the Great Depression, none of the cows were basically left or sheep. They even had trouble restocking them. And they estimate 7 million people starved to death during the Great Depression. We're now 90% urban, 10% rural, and less than half the rural people are self-sufficient. That's 5% self-sufficient versus 40+% in the 1930s. Now, you do the math on that, ladies and gentlemen. We are sitting on top of a powder keg. And if all the rich Rothschilds and Rockefellers and Bill Gates of the world think when all this melts down, they're going to bring in a cashless society and giant protein bug farms and that we're going to buy into their new system when they collapse the old system, they're crazy. But a lot of us are going to get destroyed in the process as well. This is dreadful. And war is the health of the state has been said many times. War is the health of the state. And so when all else fails, as Gerald Celente says, when all else fails, they take you to war. And that's where we are. Collapsing borders, massive crime, deindustrialization, half the public's on a bunch of different types of drugs. We're a cursed nation. The West is cursed because we turned our back on God. And now the Middle East is collapsing further, and they're beginning to accelerate bringing them here. So they can be organized by the left into a brigade of political resistance to be activated when Soros wants to. So that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. So the globalists can talk about attacking me and attacking my family and, oh, we're going to get Jones. I'll quote Helter Skelter. I'm coming down fast, but I'm miles above you. You can take America down, you're going to take yourselves down, Bill Gates. Bill Gates can't go anywhere in public without being shouted out about being at Epstein's Island 20-something times that we know of. None of the New World Order can go anywhere now without being shouted down. People know who they are. We know what they've done. We understand it. Elon Musk is right. The Great Awakening is here. Here's Vladimir Putin coming out against Israel. This is a big deal.
We also see that instead of punishing criminals and terrorists, unfortunately, they started to take revenge based on the principle of the collective responsibility of the horrible events that are now unfolding in the Gaza Strip, when hundreds of thousands of innocent people are being exterminated. People who have nowhere to go, nowhere to hide from the bombardments, from the shelling, cannot be justified. When you look at the children covered in blood, at the dead children, deceased children, when you look at how the elderly, women are suffering, how medic professionals are dying, of course, it makes you clench your fist and it makes you cry. I cannot put it in any other way. Russia wants to build a fairer world for all the civilizations. We are not only one of the leaders of this subjective historical process, but I will tell you more. And everyone is aware of this. For our future, for the principles of the just world order, for the freedom of countries and nations, Russia is fighting for all of this on the battlefield. Russia is fighting consistently, losing our brothers in arms, losing our soldiers, our officers, our heroes. I will say that again, for the tragedies of the Palestinians, for the clashes in the Middle East, behind the conflict in Ukraine, behind all of this, behind many other conflicts in the world, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and Syria, and so on and so forth. Ruling elites of the United States and their satellites are standing behind all of this. It is obvious to everyone. They are the ones who are trying to build, to deploy their military bases. They are using every occasion to use the military force. At all times, they are supplying weapons to the conflict zones. And they are supplying financial means, including to Ukraine and the Middle East. They are fanning the hatred in Ukraine and in the Middle East. And without having any accomplishments on the battlefields, they are trying to divide us from the inside.
The Muslim American revolt against Joe Biden has begun. Vladimir Putin, when you look at bloodied children, dead children, how women, old people suffer, how doctors die, and clench fist, and tears well up in your eyes. You can't say it any other way, but we shouldn't. We don't have to right to allow ourselves to be guided by emotions. We must clearly understand who is really behind the tragedy of the people of the Middle East and other regions of the world. Who organizes the deadly chaos, who benefits from it. Today, this has become obvious and clear to everyone. The customers act openly and brazenly. It is the ruling elites of the United States and their satellites that are the main beneficiaries of global instability. And then he comes out against Israel. Switzerland mails iodine tablets to 5 million residents in case of nuclear disaster. When we've sold potassium iodide pills, the media calls us scammers. 2020 flashback. Biden claims Trump will start world war with Iran. Cue that up for me. I love this graphic. For radio listeners, it shows a Muslim in the Muslim garb with the big beard and the nightgown. He comes and talks to the admissions guy at the desk in Europe. Welcome to Europe, the year 2000. 2010, there's 3 Muslims. They say, welcome to Europe. The next year, there's 5 Muslims, and there's a Muslim behind the counter that controls who gets in, which is the case in Europe. And by 2030, the white guy tries to get in, and they say, go away, unfaithful. Absolutely. And again, you hear the tribal warfare talk of the Israeli leadership saying we'll destroy all the Muslims, kill them all and kill their farm animals. You're like, well, that doesn't sound very nice. Then I've got clip after clip of Hamas leaders says it's not about land or just Palestine. The entire planet will be under our law. There will be no Jews or Christian traitors. So see, the only way to win this game is not to play. Control our borders, keep it all out, stop funding Israel, and just say, hey, your 3,000-year war killing each other, enjoy yourselves. We're not part of it. And nothing against the Muslims and the Jews. Just damn it. Our country is literally collapsing. We can't send $20 billion to Israel and $800 billion to that idiot in Ukraine. And his frickin' Azov battalions that literally hail Hitler. Just give me a break. When the globalists want to call some innocent person like Trump a Nazi, they do it. When you got a real Nazi on your hands, it's okay. It's not okay. And then the Islamists in London have gone and dumped thousands of rats into a McDonald's because they see McDonald's as supporting Israel. I mean, what does that do? It's just all psychotic weirdness. And I've checked, this is a true story. Albert Einstein wrote in 1948 and referred to Zionists as criminals. And he said it's going to basically turn the world against Jews if we go to Palestine and take their property and kick them out into the West Bank and into the Gaza Strip. And again, I'm not even demonizing the Zionists. I'm just telling you what Albert Einstein said here. Pretty smart guy. There's his letter about it. He said British intelligence was behind it all, which they were. So you want somebody to stand up against the globalists. You want somebody to fight the New World Order. Well, if you're looking for that, I'm your man. I want to thank you all for your previous support. I want to thank you all for making The Great Reset and the War for the World a #1 national bestseller. It's had a huge effect. We've topped it. This new book has just come out. It's available at InfoWarsStore.com, signed or unsigned. It is incredible. It goes through the entire globalist master plan, their activities, what makes them tick, and then we lay out an alternate plan for humanity. And unlike the globalists, we're not ordering people to follow our plan. We're simply giving alternatives to the dystopia they're building. That's why it's the Great Awakening, defeating the globalists and launching the next great renaissance. What they're selling, owning nothing, having nothing, eating bugs, castrating our children, cutting our daughters' breasts off, World War III with Russia, human smuggling, open borders, drag queen pedophile time. What they're selling is so unpopular, we've got to oppose what they're doing, but also give an alternate plan. And that's what this book opens the debate about. It is powerful, it is riveting, it is informative. I have poured my heart out. And the book is a lot thicker than my last book. It is quite the read, but it's a fast read. It's a informative read. It is a blueprint for victory against the globalists. So get your copy of The Great Awakening, the plan to defeat the globalist and launch the next great renaissance at InfoWarsStore.com. You can get it at Amazon. That's great. We want to push #1 again, but we get a lot more support when you actually buy the book from InfoWarsStore.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. We're fighting hard. I want to thank you for your past support, and I want to encourage you now to go to InfoWarsStore.com and get your copy, signed or unsigned, of The Great Awakening, because The Great Awakening is happening now.